Hello and welcome to Beyond the Buzzer. I am your host, Landon Potvin. Today we have the huge Chris Spar. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing great. Definitely one of the best lists I've put together so far.
I can't wait to destroy it. Garrison, he's our new folk today. Garrison's joining us from one of the Carolinas. How are you doing?
I'm good, Landon. Thank you, Chris and Landon, for having me today to talk about our top 10 NBA teams of all time list. Should be fun.
Thrilled to have you.
Yep, I'm very excited to see what happens today. Garrison, I'm going to ask you for your number 10 first and see what you've got.
All right. Well, at number 10, you couldn't forget this guy. I mean, he's a part of the team, but let's just say he was the whole team this year. I have the 05-06 Heat, a.k.a. Dwayne Wade, because Dwayne Wade led them to their first championship. After losing the first two games, he averaged 30+. Yeah, he had the diesel, but the diesel was old. So Dwayne Wade put up 30 points a game against the Mavericks to win 4 consecutive games. So I think the 05-06 Heat have to be in there. Even though they only were 52-30 in the regular season. 52 games, still made it to the finals, and found a way to come back from an 0-2 deficit.
I actually really like this inclusion. Not necessarily because it wasn't a team. It was 05-06 Dwayne Wade. He deserves to be on this list. He was an entire team that season. He put them on their back, brought them all the way to the finals, and then he won 4 straight. Not too many teams can say that. Not even the 2015 Cavaliers can really say that. They didn't win.
That's a good point.
3 games straight, make the 3-1 comeback, but it wasn't 4. Dwayne Wade put on a show, dropped 30 points a game. Shaq was there to help. Shaq was still a defensive beast, and he got 10 boards. That's 10 boards a game that season. But it was Dwayne dropping 30 a game that won 4 straight. Great inclusion. Make it a strong first impression, Garrison.
The Flash is something else. I love that guy. The Flash is really memorable, put a mark on the league in his early days. The way I'm making my list today, pretty simple. The way I look at these is I got a 1A and I got a 1B. I base these lists off team chemistry first and then team success. That's how my list. Chris, go ahead with your number 10. Unless you got something to say, because you look like you're
itching. Thanks for the insight. No, I was thinking about what you said. And actually, funny enough, that actually kind of plays into this selection. My number 10 spot goes to the 07-08 Denver Nuggets. The Carmelo Anthony team.
What?
Iverson, J.R. Smith, Melo. Yes, wow. Melo. He's making another look at Melo.
I know. Iverson's been on that wall in 7 videos.
Yeah, man. Yeah. We got Melo back on the list. Maybe not.
Should have put him on the left side.
Nuggets, Melo. But yes, Melo, Kenyon Martin, and Marcus Camby, and I'll admit they got knocked out in the first round this season. But this team was better than the team the next year that made it to the conference finals. I know that sounds weird, but purely based off talent and chemistry, losing Marcus Camby was a big hit to them as far as their team, because that season they got off to a bit of a slow start. But they pulled it together and made the conference finals and then inevitably got knocked out again. But the 07-08 Denver Nuggets, they left the mark. They went 50-32 that season. And Melo had one of his best seasons of his career, dropping 25.7 and 7.4 rebounds.
So is that the season with J.R. Swish?
Yes, that was the season.
So you can say this team is not making your list because of their flashiness and the way they
this team's chemistry and all around they had a certain vibe that made the games more fun to watch.
That's a good point.
So
what about you, Landon? Who's your
had more of an impact on my ability to enjoy the NBA than they really did as far as just their team all around, which makes them a worthy number 10 inclusion for me. The rest of these teams are absolute dominant monsters that really just walked through the NBA and stomped on teams. But this team was here based purely off of not only sentiment, but also skill and raw talent.
These lists are so incredibly hard, and I can't believe you're putting this poopy team on your list.
Oh my goodness! How dare you,
Chris? There's
how dare you?
I'm leaving out players like Hakeem Olajuwon. Charles Barkley isn't making this list.
Why would Charles Barkley make the list?
That's what I mean. Well, he was on the team with Hakeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler. That's a pretty good team right there. That's
but that was the Rockets
team over your Nuggets.
Not even close. Olajuwon was old.
It makes me not want to eat after this video.
Not even close.
My number 10 could be both of those teams you guys just named. I got the 2000.
Really, they could beat the NBA champion
Golden State
Miami
Warriors.
You have the 2015-2016 Warriors?
Yeah, you heard me. They went
at
7-9.
Only at 10? Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. You're talking about teams. How do you have the 73-9 Warriors?
The best team if they had won a ring.
They lost.
So?
That's exactly
why.
Landon,
so they're this low because they lost? They're this low only because they lost. That's it. That's the only reason.
They didn't win.
So I'm sure at some point you have the 2016-17 or at least the 17-18 Warriors.
Yes.
Higher on the list?
Yes.
Okay, so you have a team with a worse
because that team was better. That team is better. Has better players.
I would hope so with KD.
But you're completely
neglecting. So I don't know why you're making this argument right now.
But Landon, you got to remember, in that season, Steph averaged 30 and 7.
Yeah.
Clay averaged 22 and 4.
MVP Steph Curry.
And Draymond, to complete the big three, averaged 14 and 10. So how do you have yes, we know they lost in game 7. We all were there witnesses of it, but they won 73 games and didn't even lose double-digit games. Like, we understand
there are better teams. This list is based off teams.
Yeah, and this was the most dominant team in NBA history.
And this was before KD, by the way.
Okay, do you want me to tell you my number 9?
Sure.
Go right ahead.
2016 Cleveland Cavaliers.
Woo.
Yep, you heard it here.
That team was
LeBron
bad.
goes out and signs 8 veterans. These players I'm about to list, they've all been in the league for 10 plus years. Richard Jefferson,
Shannon Fry,
J.R. Smith, Anderson Varejao, Mo Williams. Kevin Love was an exception. Deontay Jones, Shannon Fry, James Jones, who has 5 rings as well.
All on the back of better players. He was bad and got like 3 minutes a game.
And then they got Kyrie Irving as well, and Mon Shumpert. The team, did you not listen to what I said earlier, Chris? Team chemistry is how I'm basing these lists off first, and then the team success.
Landon.
Teams with good chemistry will beat teams with good.
Yeah, that team had sick chemistry. Kyrie
remember in Thunderstruck,
he didn't enjoy playing on the team.
Remember in Thunderstruck what Kevin Durant said, hard work beats talent when talent fails. It's the same with chemistry.
No,
Landon, literally,
exactly what happened with the Warriors.
You put the 2016 Warriors. You put the 2016 Warriors over the 2016 or 2015-2016 Warriors. You put the Cavs over the Warriors, but you do realize the only reason we go to Game 7 is because Draymond was suspended for Game 6.
Right, and why.
And then in Game 7, he went 5 for 5 from 3-point line. Because you're naming all these veterans, they didn't play. Mo Williams did not play.
They bring chemistry to the team and experience.
How do they bring chemistry? Mo Williams played with the Bobcats most of his career, and
Richard
then he went
Jefferson
to the Cavaliers.
Okay,
Richard Jefferson is the only one.
Nice.
I will give you Richard Jefferson, but Anderson Varejao was only famous for getting dunked on by Dwayne Wade. Everybody remembers his name because of that dunk. So I see your point, but the problem I have with that is everybody, and I know you know basketball. You're a basketball guy. But if Draymond's in for Game 6, the Cavs do not win that. Now it's a shoulda, coulda, woulda, whatever. We know that,
right?
But for you to say that the 16 Cavs were better than the 16 Warriors, I just can't agree with. I can't because that shut the lights out.
That is exactly my argument. If Draymond Green was smart enough and was not
right,
he would not. They would be ahead of the Cavs. But because Draymond's an idiot and he has to get suspended, he kicked so many people in that
That's
area.
True.
Many times.
That's true.
He ruins his teams.
I just don't know because if those Warriors win that championship, they're the best team ever. It is what it is.
Sure.
It's just I don't see you. I don't see you. Chris, go with your number 9, please.
I don't know if I wanna. I'm kidding. I had the 03-04 Los Angeles Lakers.
Team that couldn't get it done. Right.
Yep. The team that couldn't get it done lost to the Pistons and got 4-1 by the Pistons. Regardless, the raw talent that this team brought to the table was remarkable. They have Gary Payton, Kobe Bryant, Rick Fox, Karl Malone, and Shaquille O'Neal. It's one of the greatest rosters ever put together. Props to the GM.
It really was.
They went 56-26, a great record, a star-studded lineup, and then they had to go and lose to the Pistons. But one of the biggest draws for me to pick this team, and I could have picked the championship Lakers team, but I didn't think they had the same talent on the roster. This team should have won and didn't. Same as that 2016 Warriors finals. Regardless, they shouldn't have lost. They were the favorites by a landslide.
Oh, yeah.
And Chauncey Billups, they put him down. But it's one of the greatest teams ever put to paper. Not to mention they did end up making it to the finals and just couldn't get it done.
I agree. I think the Lakers were – I feel that the Lakers were more talented that year, but the Pistons were more hungry for that championship. Because the Lakers, I mean, who was going to stop the Diesel? You would have never thought that they would have to switch Ben Wallace and Dario to the 4 and the 5 just to keep up. But I think that the Lakers, they thought, this is going to be a cakewalk. We beat everybody else to get here, so let's just do it. And the Pistons were like, listen, we haven't been here in forever. And the bad boys did it, so we got to do it. And remember, this is the team that was just, we're going to beat you up in the paint. Like, Ben Wallace was a freak. Ben Wallace did not let, and not to mention, Rip Hamilton, he was just locking up anybody. He said, I'm going to guard your best player. Now, Gary Payton could do the same, but, Gary Payton he just didn't have the,
he was an older player, man. He was an older player at the time.
At least he finally got one when he went to Wade, so.
The only two good players on that team is Shaq and Kobe. Karl Malone's 41 years old with a bum knee. He played about 20 games. And then Gary Payton, never heard of him in that series or that season.
Well, he was
He's
hurt
like
of
39.
Defensively.
They were older players. They were hurt. To me, it didn't matter. It was the draw.
Sure.
Gary Payton did show up.
Were they ring
This was 03, and he still showed up 3 years later when he went to Miami and got the ring because he would show up on the court. As long as you can play defense.
They were ring chasing, though. They were ring chasing.
Definitely. They were. I mean, think about it. He was with the Jazz. He couldn't get one because Michael was there. So he's like, okay, well, let me go to the next best thing.
Supersonic.
Go to another organization. I don't know. My number 9 has to be the 96-97 Bulls. They went 69-13. And of course, this was, within their next three-peat after Jordan came back and stuff. But I put this Bulls team in there because they, like we saw in The Last Dance, they really had to fight for it. They really had to fight. It was a cakewalk up until the finals. But once they met a young Gary Payton and Sean Kemp, who was just the dynamic duo out of the West, They actually had to fight for it because remember, they went up the first 2 games and everybody was thinking, oh, well, here's Jordan getting another ring, clean sweep. And then Gary Payton said, Coach, let me guard him. And he tired Michael out. And Michael had to fight for everything else. And then the Supersonics win the next 2 games, and it's 2-2. And everybody's like,
you said 95, 96, right?
No, 96, 97.
That's the Jazz. They played the Jazz that season. It went Supersonics, Jazz.
Oh, well, I get thrown off because it's for the previous season because, well, it says 96 finals, the Bulls versus the Supersonics. So
it was 94, 95 should have been the Supersonics. Or no.
No. 94 was Hakeem Olajuwon.
Yeah.
95, 94 and 95, the Supersonics won because and then 96 because remember they went 91, 92, 93, Jordan retires. 94, 95 were the were the Houston Rockets. They went back to back and then he came back 96, 97, 98. So yeah, the 96 finals when when Jordan finally comes back. And Gary Payton had something to say about it, but they wouldn't get it done, obviously, because you got Rodman, you got Pippen, you got Steve Kerr at that time. Because remember, Paxson was gone, so he hit a shot for him in the early finals. But that's why I feel that they were at my number 9. So
now you're number 8.
You're number 8. I'm interested now. You have
my number 8 team. I just cannot forget how special they made this playoffs look. I have to go with the 07-08 Boston Celtics with the big 3, Ray Allen, KG, and Paul Pierce. I went with them because not only were they 66-16, Ray Allen 17-4, Paul Pierce, even though he's not my biggest fan, I'm not his biggest fan, He was a 20-5 guy, and of course the big ticket. That's why they brought him there. He got 19-9 a game. Not to mention the Celtics. They played with heart that entire playoff run, series, and they just showed what it meant to win and to play together. Because of course, everybody forgets about Rondo not being in the big 3, but without Rondo, they don't win that series. He's a passing machine, and everybody knows it. What Rondo did in that series, he even stepped up big from the offensive end. And not to mention, the Celtics did have a lot more depth than the Lakers. They had, Tony Allen, who could come off the bench and play defense. They had Sam Cassell, who could hit a spot-up 3 if they needed it. They had Glenn Davis, who wasn't really a factor, but when you needed a bucket, he would somehow find a way to muscle to the cup and score. So, not to mention KP, I don't know what happened after 08, but Kendrick Perkins was a different Kendrick Perkins in the finals of 08 at least, because he was a bucket getter. He could get you a good 5 points, and now after that it was nothing. But that's why I feel.
I love you giving props to Tony Allen. He was a clamp god. He was
really
best on-ball defenders coming off the bench at the time. He was never really the same after the Celtics, but while he was there, he was recognizable for his defense. Same with Rondo. That was a very defensive team. Rondo,
for real,
Pierce was lock up in the post, especially, surprisingly enough.
Right.
He was basically a power forward, but he was the small forward. And then KG, one of the best defensive power forwards of all time. And defense was really all Kendrick Perkins could do because what was he doing on the offensive end? He had to do something.
Really.
So he got boards and he played defense. So I like that pick. That was a good pick. I'm not a fan of the truth because all he does is lie. And he calls out Dwayne Wade saying that he would have had a better career if he was on Miami. So I don't really, but props. It's a good pick, but Paul Pierce, man, jeez, gets all cocky when he gets to media. I don't know.
Chris, that brings us to your number 8 now.
Yes, my number 8, the 97-98 Bulls. The Last Dance.
Yep.
Might seem a little low for any Bulls team.
That's how
But there's actually one lower on Garrison's list at number 9, so who cares?
Yeah.
But 62-20 Last Dance Bulls with Ron Harper, Jordan Pippen, Dennis the Menace, and Bill Wellington was a special team, but they won just because they were like, well, we're leaving. So
I mean, yeah.
we're going to win. That's what's happening.
Basically,
And they made it happen. I know that makes it sound easier than it was, but these guys, it was an older team at that point. They were all veterans, well into their prime, and they just, it was special. Everyone watched it happen. They just had a big documentary about it.
It was sad to see him go. I mean, I respect that team that you put him up there at least because
it was even sadder to watch Jordan come back on the Wizards. But
apparently Mike Shanahan.
that was a special team, and they're more than deserving of the 8th spot, maybe even the 7th spot. But
Mike Shanahan, Chris, and Garrison thinks that Michael Jordan's the best player in, what is it? Is it not the Central, but the Atlantic Division? He has.
Wow.
Michael Jordan is the best player in the Atlantic Division.
I wonder about that one.
But
he can think that if he wants to. Why not?
Sure. He got to watch Michael Jordan play, so
we can all pretend that that's true.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say one thing about these Bulls teams. I have one Bulls team on my list, and if I had the chance, I would put 6 Bulls teams on my list. But I wanted some variety, so I only put 1. So my number 8, I got the 03-04 Pistons. This team had a 0.01% chance of winning. You said that earlier, Chris. One of the greatest upsets in not only basketball history, but pro sport history. The offense, this team was not supposed to win, right? The defense, I'll bring out my dad joke. Offense wins games, defense wins championships, and that's exactly
a fact.
Rasheed Wallace and Ben Wallace. And then, of course, Garrison mentioned Rip Hamilton can lock up, and so can Chauncey Billups. Chauncey Billups held Kobe Bryant to 11 points one game, and that is, the defense was led through Wallace, and the leadership was through Chauncey. So, as I mentioned before, chemistry is why this team won, and lack of chemistry is why the Lakers won. Anything before I move on to my 7?
That was a good point.
Because you said signing veterans was the big reason why the Cavs had chemistry, and then the Lakers go out and sign veterans, and for some reason that
they don't.
No chemistry.
Sucks, right?
Well, I mean, the Lakers.
How that happens? Like, I feel like you kind of switched it up on us. I don't know.
The Lakers. I don't know. The Lakers just thought they were gonna win that, and then the Pistons said, "Okay, listen."
They went in there.
They went in there like, "Okay, we're gonna get another one."
Let me explain it to you, Chris. LeBron James is a leader, right? Young Kobe.
No, they won because of LeBron James.
Right.
He played 48 minutes a game that series, and that's why they won.
LeBron's leadership is bringing everybody together, What did Kobe do? Kobe wanted the ball in his hands every possession. So did Shaq. So while they're bickering and barking at each other, what are the other guys doing? They're not. That's the difference between LeBron's team in 15, 16, and Kobe in his younger days. Kobe was a solo player, ISO player, whereas LeBron is maybe not so much in his older days, but that team, the 15, 16 Cavs, he made sure everybody touches the ball, everybody plays, and that's my number 7 is the 1970-1971 Milwaukee Bucks. Now you'd be surprised, I actually got to see these guys play live. So I got to see Lou Alcindor play, I got to see Bob Dandridge play, Oscar Robertson. I'm just joshing, but second year in the league, Lou Alcindor, more prominently known as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for you youngins. He was taking over the league. The league was now his. Wilt Chamberlain, you're gone. Bill Russell, you're out of your prime, dude. You're old. and he had a veteran on his team. They signed Oscar Robertson, who was still not so much of a triple-double threat, but he was basically not only their point guard, but their point forward, right? He was still reliable on the offensive end. And then they had this third man, Bob Dandridge. He played great defense to go along with his reliable and his premier scoring, 18 points per game and 37 minutes a game. I don't think this is where the chemistry lacked, but the talent took over, right? Kareem, that hook shot, unguardable. Nobody can stop that. And then they had Oscar Robinson running the point, like I said, but that offense was just so dominant.
Landon, I agree 100% with you because I had the 70-71 Bucks as my number 7. I mean, Kareem, as you said, 32 and 16. I mean, you talk about an athlete. He was already used to winning coming from UCLA with John Wooden.
Yeah.
Then you add Mr. Triple-Double himself, Oscar Robinson, who averaged 19 and 8. I mean, who else would have beat him? So I agree 100%. I mean, it was 66 and 16. I mean, the Bucks, you can't have a list without having at least these Bucks on here. You can't. You just can't.
Well, we'll see.
That's the thing, though. You can, because I do. I do not have that Bucks team on there because I have a really bad case of recency bias. It's hard for me to judge a team I've never watched play. That being said, I mean, I've watched most of the teams on my list play, at least to a certain degree. I've never seen the 70-71 Bucks play. Now, I'm sure they're outstanding. It was Kareem when he was a child. He was just getting into the league, and he was already taking over. I believe he won an MVP that year, and if he didn't, it's a crime that he didn't. I didn't have him on my list this time, so I really didn't look into it that deeply. But that was easily one of the best teams ever, especially with Oscar Robertson coming from Cincinnati Royals and picking up that point forward spot. Even though he was a 6'4" guard, he was one of the best rebounders in the league. Mm-hmm. In a league with Bill Russell and Will Chamberlain, he averaged a triple-double, which was insane on its own. So I understand why you have them at number 7. Outstanding pick, both of you, because you both have them at number 7.
So you're 7, Chris.
Yes, my 7, since we already heard Garrison's. 85-86 Boston Celtics. Yeah, that team. The 85-86 Boston Celtics with Dennis Johnson, Danny Ainge, Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and Bob Parrish. Pick any one of those 3 other names to pair with Larry Bird and Kevin McHale, because it really doesn't matter. Larry Bird and Kevin McHale were amazing and one of the best duos to ever grace us with their presence on the court. A 67-15 season, one of the best dynamic duos of all time, and NBA championships that year. They also sparked one of the greatest rivalries ever with Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Wallace Endor himself. I have them, I just don't have the Bucks. Yeah, one of the best teams to ever play, one of the best rivalries that ever existed. Not having them on my list would have been criminal.
I just can't believe they're that high.
Oh, well, Landon, if you don't believe they're that high,
low.
I'll go with my number 6, and I have the 85-86 Celtics. 67-50.
Yeah, we already heard your 7. Let's hear your 6, because apparently you agree with me that they're top 10.
Oh, yeah. My number 6 is the Celtics, 85-86. I mean, think about it. You have Larry Bird, who literally told the Atlanta Hawks, I'm going to shoot this rainbow trainer's lap, and hit the 3 and landed, and it had the bench even applauding. Like, this is Larry Legend, okay?
Oh,
Not to mention you have McHale.
Don't even worry about the Hawk shot. He did the same thing in the finals to James Worthy. He looked at James Worthy and said, he looked at James Worthy and said, I'm going to run into the corner. I'm going to hit the 3, and we're going to win. And there's nothing you can do about it. And you know what he did? He ran to the corner. James Worthy chased him, and he hit the three.
You talk about shoot the lights out. You talk about shoot the lights out of the gym. I mean, and not to mention the Celtics. The Celtics. It might have back then. The Celtics had depth off the bench. They had Bill Walton, a Hall of Fame center,
who had already won a championship. 6 minutes.
He had already won a championship. So that's veteran presence right there. Not to mention, you did have Danny Ainge, coming off the bench, doing what he does, getting his buckets. But I mean, that starting five was just who? I mean, the Lakers were very talented, but who was gonna, you got DJ, you got McHale, you got, Parrish. Parrish was already a giant by himself. Not to mention when they had to run Bill Walton in. After Kareem got tired, the Lakers had no backup centers besides Michael Thompson, maybe Clay's father. No.
Michael Thompson was there. No. What are they gonna do? Run 6'8" Kurt Rambis there? Yeah. No.
Right. That would have been bad. That would have been bad.
You could pop Rambis now and he'd still fight.
Kurt Rambis was one of the scrappiest players ever. It was fantastic. Yeah. With his goggles, man, I loved it.
Find a way.
That's a good series in and of itself. That rivalry series. Get Ice Cube in there.
All right, we're gonna stop the meeting there. Gotta start a new meeting, and then Chris, you give us your 6.
Yeah, my 6.
I'll just send a link. Chris, give us your 6.
So my 6, the 98-99 San Antonio Spurs with David Robinson, Tim Duncan. Yes, I'm going from center to point guard right now because it gets less impressive as we go.
Yes.
David Robinson, Tim Duncan, Sean Elliott, Mario Ellie, and Steve Kerr, who in this series won his 4th consecutive championship. Only player to ever do it. Incredibly impressive, especially to me. I think it's awesome. And honestly, I kind of hope that the Raptors win this championship so that Pat McCaw can tie that record. Yeah, think about that. Pat McCaw's going for his 4th consecutive championship. How cool would that be?
It's not going to happen.
I don't see anyone. Either you could pick Clippers, Lakers, who cares, or Bucks even, not the Raptors. Imagine they did though; it'd be so cool. And then imagine they repeat, get 5 in a row. Pat McCaw, look at him go. But yeah, they were just insane. And David Robinson, absolute monster, one of my favorite players of all time. Tim Duncan, another one, phenomenal player. We did it. He was my best player in the
Southwest.
Tim Duncan. He's just phenomenal. One of the best post players, finishers,
of course.
Defender.
That's the big fundamental.
Does anyone care? Yeah, big Mr. Fundamentals. And then add Sean Elliott and a few other veterans, Mario Ellie. No one on this team was under 30 except for Tim Duncan. Everyone was a veteran. It's so good. Such a great team.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope they would win. They were playing
the NBA champions.
Bad. They were playing bad knees, Patrick Ewing and Allen Houston, who couldn't stay healthy. But
Allen Houston might not have stayed healthy, but he was.
A championship is a championship. I respect it.
Chris, I'm taking the 02-03 Spurs before I take that Spurs team.
I was about to say because they had D-Rob too still on the team, and they had Ginobili
and D-Rob and
Parker and Robert Horry-Quist.
Right. They have Robert Horry though.
Dude, yeah, but it wasn't the same David
Robert Horry had already gotten 2 rings in Houston, so he knew about winning, and not to mention. He had already got some on the Lakers as well.
Yeah, man, but this championship sparked a dynasty.
It did. That's a fair point.
This was Tim Duncan's 2nd year in the league.
But you can see,
first championship. This was Tim's first championship. This sparked everything that happened.
Look, it sparked the dynasty.
This team set up the rest of the team.
It did, but the Lakers put that on hold for about 2-3 years. Good too, because after '99 they didn't touch it again until 03.
Chill out with Shaq.
They didn't touch it again until 03. 99.
That's 4 years. That's still awesome. 4 years and you go and win another championship.
And then they
Teams are
did
still winning their
then
first
Yeah, not
championship.
everyone can be the Warriors and the Bulls.
then they did
Right.
the 2-year thing because they went 03, 05, 07, and then 14. So it took them a minute to last.
I just thought that this team it was different because I thought that until Kawhi Leonard stepped up, David Robinson was the best player that Tim Duncan played with for the next couple of years.
Yeah,
Not to
very
mention,
true.
when you get to that 02-03 team, David Robinson wasn't the same player.
And then in 07 he did it, and 05 and 07 he did it by himself.
Yeah.
Well, he had with Parker and Ginobili, but I'm just saying, you know,
I honestly think Ginobili and Parker are just amazing elite role players. They're
without a doubt,
they could not go to a different team.
They are the tippy top of what a role player should be. Not to mention Ginobili and his multiple 6 man of the years.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so I'm gonna give you my number 6 now. I got the 2012, 2013 Miami Heat. All right, my number 5 is no, I'm just kidding. Okay, look. Any team with LeBron is going to be good. Chemistry will be high. The team will be led well. This team wasn't as successful as it should have been. They went to 4 straight finals in LeBron's 4 years there, and they only won twice. They lost to the Mavericks in 6. They lost to the Spurs, which they beat the year before. But again, they should have at least had 3, if not 4 for sure. LeBron and Wade are top 3 duos of all time. And then you add Bosh, who is a way better number 3 option than a Dennis Rodman or a Kareem when he was with the Lakers. Pure talent-wise. Kareem, 7'6", I hope he's grabbing 10 boards a game. I hope his hook shot's going as great as it is. What 7-1, whatever.
Now,
Hold on. Let me go first.
go ahead, please.
Now, I kind of agree. I can see where you're coming from, but that's just LeBron's thing. LeBron is, at this point, 3-9 in the finals. Is that his record?
No, I don't think so.
I think it's something like 3-9.
Like wins, losses?
Yeah, win loss.
Like total win losses?
Isn't he like 3?
I know he
3
was
for 9.
to one
Yeah,
final
he's
with the
like-
Cavs,
Yeah.
and by the 2012-13, he's been to one with the Heat, so something like that.
He had already won one by 2012-2013 because 2012-2013 season was when they played the Spurs because it's for the previous season.
No.
So 2012-20. I know it.
Yeah.
He's
2013.
been there a lot and only has 3 championships.
Well, he only had one at that time.
Yes.
Yeah, one at that time.
He has been there a lot and only has 3 championships. It's a thing. I'm not surprised that he only won 2 there. Was the team way better? Was the team good enough? Way better. What does that even mean? Was the team good enough to win 4 straight years?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%. They had Mario Chalmers, who was a clamp god and a 2K glitch. They had Ray Allen, who, if you want veterans, he was the pinnacle of the time. All he did was sit in the corner and dink.
Oh my God. They had Norris. Chris, they had Norris Cole, Udonis Haslem, and then they had Shane Battier, who was the best Dennis Rodman at diving for the ball.
He was a Dennis Rodman with a 3-point shot.
Let's not forget.
Yeah, we should not throw around Dennis Rodman's name like that.
No. Let's not forget the true champion of that Heat team.
Birdman.
One shoe Miller. Mike Miller went off from 3-point land when he only had one shoe in the finals. Come on. We know Birdman, but remember, Birdman only showed up if Paul George wasn't on the court. And second of all, remember, this team was very talented. This is the same team that until they lost to the Bulls had that record of 27 games going in the regular season. Because remember, they were 66-16 that season. So everybody expected them to get to the finals again. I mean, LeBron, they didn't lose a step in the regular season. They didn't lose until they lost finally to the Bulls streak, and the Bulls ended the streak. I mean, with Derrick Rose, I just think that this team was more talented than people remember because they had way more depth. They had way more depth. I mean, people are just thinking, Like, remember, they used to bring anybody in, and that person that was on that court with whoever it was going to play. I mean, James Jones even came in and was banging home threes to win in that championship.
James Jones did, though. That people.
Come on.
I feel like James Jones gets more credit than he deserves. I mean, I feel like he's all of his championships have been won with LeBron James. He's been on every championship LeBron James team.
All I'm saying is LeBron just better thank his teammates for when he goes to the Hall of Fame, because
he's like
he would not have 2 rings if it wasn't for 2 people. And that is Chris Bosh and Ray Allen on one team. And
that is one thing about LeBron that always gets very overstated. They're like, oh, LeBron James puts the team
because
dude, he had Kyrie and Kevin Love.
And then we also have to credit, like Landon said, we have to credit Shane Battier for his defensive effort on Tim Duncan, because Tim Duncan's in that game. Bosh is not grabbing that rebound, and Miami does not get that ring because it was game 6, and we all know what happened. If Bosh does not, because remember, LeBron's the one that took that shot first and couldn't hit it. So, just saying. And,
that Ray Allen shot was wild.
I mean, I almost got kicked out of my house that night. I was with all my Heat gear, and I was just like, oh, please. And then I saw him do the speed. I was like, okay, you got to hit this. And I saw Norris Cole jumping from the sideline, and I was like, okay, he has to hit this. He has to hit this. And then they were like, bang, and I was like, no fouls, no fouls. I was like, oh. Because San Antonio didn't have a timeout. That was like, whew. All right.
All right, let's hear it. 5.
All right,
my 5.
I have the 1986-87. You ready? Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, of course it was.
This Lakers team, I'm honestly shocked myself that this team is number 5 on my list. Like, I can't even. Did you make this list, Chris? This team was very talented. I think this might be the best starting 5 of all time. Tremendous squad, 1 through 8. They have Magic Johnson, James Worthy, Kareem. They have 2 great shooting guards in Byron Scott, Michael Cooper. Then they have Michael Thompson, AC Green, Kurt Rambis, and they were all great, real contributors to the team. And then Frank Bertowski. Yeah, he was basically a Kurt Rambis 2.0. He even contributed, and if it weren't for the Celtics, Magic might have like 7 rings. Magic and Bird came the same.
That's a fact. He was
assembled. And I think it was Lakers Celtics for like 4 years in a row that they played in the finals against one another. So.
Yeah,
I agree.
I'm at a loss to add anything, but I'll do my best because I also have the 86-87 Lakers as mine.
Cool.
Yeah, that's my number 5. So, yeah, Magic, Byron Scott, James Worthy, AC Green, and Kareem. Man, just a ridiculous starting 5. Yeah, their sixth man won Defensive Player of the Year. Michael Cooper, the 60th pick a few years back. He was like 8 years in already, but he won the Defensive Player of the Year at 6th man. Didn't even win 6th man of the year. Only averaged 10 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist. Who cares? Yeah, but this team and to win the championship in 86-87 against.
I think it was the Pistons or the Celtics.
Yeah, it was. I don't think it was the Celtics. I don't think they played the Celtics that year.
It was the Pistons.
It might have.
Might have been the Trailblazers, actually.
I feel like we should know this. But yeah, no, this team was outstanding. One of the best of all time, obviously being on this list. So,
Garrison, you're number 5, unless you have something to say. My number 5 is the 2001 Los Angeles Lakers. They were 56-26. They had KD, Kobe Bryant, and Shaquille O'Neal. Not to mention they had Horace Grant at the 4. They had Rick Fox at the 3, and they had Ron Harper at the 1. So let's get right into it. This team is on here because, well, back then it was pretty much easier for teams to get to to the finals at least, because remember, we didn't play best of 7 for each game. So when the Lakers blew through the West, they had no real competition. And then we have to credit AI for literally putting Mutombo on one shoulder and the rest of the whole 76er organization on the other shoulder and carrying them to the final. Not to mention, they did win game 1. That's the famous step over to Romney like he's your son game for life. So, but I think the Lakers realized, okay, listen, we had no business losing at home to the 76ers when we have the Diesel, who would dominate anybody, and KB, when he was number 8 though, Kobe Bryant, of course, leading that team. I feel that started the Kobe Shaq dynasty. I mean, obviously it started it, but I think it really started it because everybody wanted to see how Kobe and Shaq would play together once Shaq became a Laker. Fine, and they got good enough because, I mean, he was there for a couple of years, but they weren't really doing anything. And then they finally broke it open for a good run.
Hey,
they finally broke it open.
Yo, Kobe wasn't even a real all-star until his 4th year. He won that second year in the league.
That's a very good point.
I have no idea how he got there.
And remember, in '98, he wasn't even starting. They had somebody. Yeah, so, I mean.
I made this point a long time ago. Just imagine if Kobe was starting his first year. Just imagine if Kobe played more than 8 minutes a game in his first 3 years. The guy's numbers would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like Kobe Bean Bryant's numbers weren't already phenomenal. Right. I think something kind of, I think that's kind of what made him so kind of cocky, I think he was like, I don't deserve this. I need to be starting already. I won an all-star my second year in the league. And then he didn't win one his third, which was hilarious. He was not an all-star his third year. But he was his second, but he averaged like 12 points per game. And then his 4th year, that's when things kind of took off. He started just dominating because he was tired of Tracy McGrady pushing him around. Then he decided, Mamba was born in that 4th year, really.
Yeah.
So, Garrison, we also need your number 4.
Let's hear
So
it.
my number 4 will be the 2015, the 2016, 73-9 Golden State Warriors. As I stated before, they did not win a ring, but this team was all season was just the most talented thing you saw on TV. I mean, from Curry pulling up from the Golden State logo to Clay hitting threes where you thought he would never even hit them from. And not to mention Draymond. Draymond Green was such a key factor into them winning all of these games because he was just a defensive dog. He was a rebounder. He was a hustler. He was a antic that just was so much to deal with on the court night in and night out. I mean, even in the playoffs, this was a team that just dominated the entire playoffs, and then Draymond decided to not stay on the floor because he wanted to kick. And technicals kept coming left and right like it was given out to the homeless. I mean, Draymond had more technicals that playoffs than the law literally allows. It was ridiculous. So that, and you see, it caught up to him because he gets the last technical and then he has to be suspended for game 6. And guess what happened? LeBron says, oh, no Draymond, no defensive factor really, besides maybe Harrison Barnes. Let's see if we can exploit this. And they did, and they go to 7. But then Draymond came back and said, I'm going to go 5 for 5. But it wasn't enough. Because LeBron said, okay, it's winning time. Let's do what I do. I'm the king. I got to get one for the land. Let's do it.
And he doesn't lose games. So we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, he doesn't lose game 7. That's a fact. So
I'm going to come to the defense of the Warriors and say that they don't deserve this. Putting them at 4? I know they didn't win a championship. I know Draymond choked and decided to not play because he decided to kick some people in places where they don't like to be kicked and get tackled. It was a thing. Also, the best defensive player on the court after Draymond is Klay Thompson. Don't forget it. He's one of the best defensive guards to ever play basketball.
Over Iguodala?
Yeah.
Yes, over Iguodala.
He wasn't on the team.
And over Harrison Barnes. Harrison Barnes is the real story.
Who wasn't on the team yet?
What?
Iggy wasn't on that team yet.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, he was. Iggy was still
It's 20.
Best defender.
He was the sixth man since 2014. I can't believe they traded him. Honestly, I wish he retired a Warrior, but they weren't willing to pay him. Regardless, I'll go to my number 4. I have the Warriors later. I'll shout about them then. My number 4 is the 2012-13 Miami Heat. We've already discussed them. We discussed cheat code Chalmers. We discussed Dwayne Wade, who's the real hero, who was basically the point guard. He brought the ball up. It wasn't Chalmers. Chalmers sat in the corner and got steals and shot threes. That's it. That's all he did. Dwayne Wade brought the ball up, and he played point guard for this team. LeBron James is LeBron James. Chris Bosh was there. He wasn't really a numbers guy, though. What he did was more. He played defense. He got rebounds, yes. He shot some threes, yes. But he was so clutch with his threes sometimes, too. Like, that's a very underrated thing for him. That dude would be, like, fading back, like, and just put it up with 13 seconds left on the shot clock when he absolutely didn't have to and dink it anyway. He was phenomenal. And then Birdman Chris Anderson. I put him in as the starter because it said that he started a lot of games at center. And I always considered Bosh more of a 4 anyway.
Right.
So LeBron James won his 4th MVP this year. They won a championship this year. To really very little credit to LeBron James because it was all Ray Allen in the corner. But what really stood out to me was that they only won 66 games. And I say only like it's not a lot, but don't you feel like that team should have won like 75 games? Like just the roster alone, you look at like, but they didn't just sweep the season. Really? I mean, it's really difficult to win 73 games. We saw the team that had to be put together for that to happen. But, like, they look like a team that could have won 79-3. They
just take some steroids.
On paper, when you're 6'9", 250, and not obese, there's a serious issue. LeBron has to be doing something. Maybe he's harnessing energy from a black hole. Who knows?
Yeah, right.
Let's hear Landon's number 4, though. We talked enough about that team. They're phenomenal and deserve everything that they got, except for the 2 championships they lost.
I'm waiting for LeBron to post a book on what he does for his health. But my number 4, I got that Celtics team, that famous 85-86 Celtics team. We've said so much on it. Arguably top 5 greatest starting 5 of all time. I think I said that earlier, but then they had the 6th man of the year, Bill Walton, the caveman, and then they have the Scott Wetbed also coming off the bench. I like him a lot. But it's weird. Larry Bird's playing close to 40 minutes a game throughout his career. And then team is just so good. So I'll move on to my number 3.
Lost for words. We understand.
I know. Number 3, I got the 1960-1961 Boston Celtics. 57-22, 8-2 in the postseason, 4-1 sweep. Not sweep, but 4-1 in the finals. Regular season point differential plus 5.7. Playoffs was 14.5. One of the best teams of all time, led by Bill Russell. I've been reading the book of basketball, and Bill Simmons, the guy's heart beats whenever he hears the word Boston Celtics. So he goes on and on and on and just keeps rambling about any Celtics team. And I've just learned so much about Bill Russell because he has a chapter dedicated to who's better, Walton or Russell or Chamberlain. And of course he chooses Russell, and he makes great arguments. Bill Russell will block shots to his teammates to start a break, instead of Wilt Chamberlain, who will block shots out of the stands just for stats, right? Bill Russell will make the extra pass, which is why that Celtics team was so successful, because he cared about chemistry with Sam Jones, Bob Cousy, Casey Jones, Tom Henson, Bill Sherman, and Tom Sanders. The team was just so good, and I would have loved to watch Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain go at it. And that's my number 3.
Hey, you have no pushback from me. Bill Russell, that was amazing. dominated in a time where there were only 8 teams, which is my only issue with him and why I don't really put him on a lot of lists. Obviously, he made my list for the Northeast because he had to. It was a thing. I just have a hard time arguing for a team that played. It's a different era, and I understand he dominated in his own era. I can't argue for him to be able to dominate in this era because I don't know. That's my only problem. That's why he's that team. I never really bring them up.
The difference is they let him play back then. They don't let him play now. They let him play in the 2000s. They don't let him play now. Everything is a foul here. You breathe on me. It's a foul here. We can look at it. It's a technical. It takes forever in that. At least I can understand Landon's point most of all because in those eras that we talked about, they let them play basketball, and we understand there was some times where they should have blown the whistle. But like they said, we're gonna let you play, and we're gonna let you play basketball. Like we're gonna let you play. Like we're not gonna call every little thing. If you're getting, punched in the face, then we're gonna break it up. But if you're getting tap right here or tap right here, then you gonna have to play through it, dude. You gonna have to play through it, and that's why I think the games were sometimes more exciting. Sometimes at times.
I understand. They were basically playing hockey back then. I get it. I understand why you put them there. I'm just saying I have a hard time making arguments for teams that not only I never saw play, but that it's a completely different league. Just number of teams alone. But I get it. 11 championships for Bill. He deserved all of them.
Oh, heck yes.
Yeah. My number 3, if we're moving on. Are we ready?
Sure. Yes. Why not?
Can't step on anyone's toes. The 2016-17 Golden State Warriors that went 67-15. This was the Curry, Thompson, Durant, Draymond, JaVale McGee Warriors. Slightly different. Because they went 73-9 and were like, hey, we're missing a 4th All-Star. Let's tack one on. Not only an All-Star, also a former MVP. Because we just do that. Why not? Let's bring in Kevin Durant, who we just made a 3-1 comeback in the conference champion on. Let's do that. Yeah, it's 6 games worse. That's something I always hear. They're like, oh yeah, they did worse after adding Kevin.
Look, it don't matter.
Yeah, they did 6 games worse. They lost 6 extra games.
The way KD dropped LeBron in game 1, oh yeah, they did it worse for a reason. Because he sure did make LeBron slip and drive to the.
They won a championship so much.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
And he won Finals MVP.
Add a former MVP after you break the record for most wins in the season.
I think KD was just thinking, well, if you can't beat him, join him. Just join him. Just join him.
I don't really care. Would people have said the same thing if he lost in, I don't know,
the
second round of the finals?
Oh,
If the Thunder won, wait, hold on, Garrison. If the Thunder lost in the second round of the finals and the Warriors went on and got 3-0, second round of the playoffs, and the Warriors went on and got 3-0'd and choked, and then they were like, KD, get over here. Would people say the same thing? Doubt it. Obviously, that's not how it went.
Look.
Also, something underrated about that entire playoff series, there were 2 3-1 comebacks. The Warriors did it, and then it happened to them. Super not talked about. I
know KD. I respect you putting those Warriors at least up there because I understand, what KD did was probably, not the best for, people, it's so soft. But you got to remember, 1, at the end of the day, the ultimate goal is to hold the Larry O'Brien trophy in your hand. 2, LeBron did not the same thing, but he started the super team because he wanted a ring. So KD, KD couldn't beat him, and he's like, okay, you know what? I'm going to sign with him. It's the worst move ever. At the end of the day, he wanted a ring. He did what he had to do. Because LeBron did what he had to do, or had to do, when he left Cleveland and said, I'm going to go join the Miami Heat. We already got Wade there. We're going to get Bosh here. Let's go do this thing. So I'm just saying, because then everybody wanted to play with the Heat. I mean, you had Ray Allen literally just lose to them. And then what did Ray Allen do the following year? Because everybody forgets, Ray Allen lost to Miami in 2012 in the conference finals. And then where did he end up next year? With another ring. So he went to Miami the following year. And that leaving Boston, going to Miami, and what ended up happening, he won a ring because of him and his shot sent him to 7. So, I mean, I understand, it was probably not the toughest move or whatever you want to call it. But at the end of the day, KD did what's best for him. Say what you want, but LeBron started this.
He's not even the first person who did it.
LeBron started it because LeBron literally said, okay, I'm not going to win in Cleveland. I can't stay in Cleveland.
It's two totally different arguments.
Disagree.
How is it
LeBron
different?
did not lose to the Miami Heat.
Okay, yeah, I said,
Ray Allen did.
And I
And then
literally
Ray
Allen's not the top five best player of all
but
time.
guess what? But Landon, guess what? I just said they're not the same thing, but they're similar, right? There's one goal in mind, and that's to win a championship. How you do it is how you decide to do it. But guess what? LeBron said, listen, I can't do it in Cleveland anymore, so where do I need to go? I need to find the best team that can get me a chance to win a championship. And guess what? They got to the finals the first year. And he was like, okay, well, you choked that. That blew up in his face. Then the next year, they go back and they get it. And then the next year, they go back and they survive and they get it. So I'm just saying, the ultimate goal is he put that team together because Bosh had to come over. Bosh wasn't all. It's not like Bosh and Wade had already played a season together and LeBron joined them. No. LeBron joined Wade, who was already there, and then he said, "You know what, Chris Bosh? You're an all-star. Why don't you come over?" Not to mention they got everybody else that wanted to join because you forget the 2012 roster is completely different. They didn't have everybody that they had when they had in 2013.
We only have 9 minutes to do the rest of this. So, we're not even talking about the Miami Heat. We're just supposed to be talking about the Warriors. Made great arguments, Garrison, but let's go. Number 3, Garrison.
Yeah.
Oh, number 3, we're just going to blow by because it was the 2012-2013 Heat. We already talked about that.
Woo! Everyone's got them. Everyone's talking about them.
My number 2 will be, we talked about that, so I'll go quick. It was the 86-87 Lakers. Magic Johnson, 24 and 12 assists, that is. James Worthy, 19 and 6, and Big Kareem, 18 and 7. I mean, what are you going to do with him? You couldn't stop the big 3. We know what happened there.
One of the most talented big threes and rosters of all time. So, are we doing my number 2 now?
Yeah.
No, let's do my number 2, and let's just skip you, Chris, because.
Yeah, why not? It's only the 95 minutes both. But yeah, no, Ron Harper, Jordan, Pippen, Rodman, Bill Wellington, and the 72-10 record that was inevitably broken by the 2015-16 Warriors. The best offense in the league at the time, and the 3rd best defense, which surprised me. Doesn't. Still. And they were champions. And, yeah, that's my number 2, those 95-96 Chicago Bulls. Such a talented team. Clamp God Harper. Everyone on this team was actually a clamp god. I don't know, maybe Big Bill. He was kind of slow. He was there for boards. He was just a 7-foot-tall, human
All right,
guy.
Chris. So my number 2 is the Golden State Warriors because my number 1 is your number 2. So we'll talk about it when we get to my number 1. I have the 2017-2018 Warriors instead of 16-17. Don't really know why. I just wanted to be different.
Basically, it's a roster.
They went 4-0 in the finals. That's the only difference.
They swept that year,
right? In 16-17.
Yeah, they won 1. It was 4-1 and 4-0, or whichever year it was.
It's interchangeable. It was the same roster, and they
just about
went 8-1. That was their record in the finals.
The only thing bad about this team is they almost lost to the Rockets in the conference finals.
That's a fact.
And then they had surprisingly only a +6 point differential. That's
probably carrying Clay hitting some threes or something.
That sounds like a lot of KD and Draymond beef throughout the season, but just
I remember that. Yeah,
just a little bit more when they had this big 4. But I see you still gotta respect the greatness. That's why they're number 2, and why Michael Jordan's number 1. Michael Jordan will always be 1. Chris, you remember that, Chris.
I mean, he's not wrong.
What?
MJ is the GOAT.
When did I ever say otherwise?
I'll just keep my number one team, the greatest team of all time to be assembled, coach and everything. The 95, 96 Chicago Bulls. Phil Jackson is just the mastermind behind this roster. Without Phil Jackson, there's nothing. I don't care. Jerry Krause, you can go.
Yeah, seriously, Jerry Krause not getting any love for putting this whole team together.
No,
Jerry Krause gets some love, but
I'm gonna hate on him too. But it's just like the Bad Boys team. Like that, Chris.
Well, according to basically everyone else, though, that whole docuseries was just a whole big Michael Jordan hate fest on everyone.
Look, I'll give him some credit, but he literally is the reason why they broke up. Because they could have won more. He literally said, Phil Jackson, you will not be my coach. You will not be our coach. And Michael said, well, I'm not playing for any other coach. And then they were forced to trade away 2 of the other All-Stars, Rodman and Pippen. So, come on now, when they broke up. But, Landon, I'm right there with you with 95, 96. I mean, think about it. The season was just an onslaught for them. I mean, Michael put up 30 a game. Pippen, 19-6. And not to mention, Dennis Rodman didn't score offensively, but guess what? He can get you damn near 20 a game with 15, averaging 15 on an off night, maybe in board. So, not to mention they had depth from Steve Kerr, Tony Kukoc off the bench. Who remember?
I totally forgot about him.
Not to mention, and Weddington came off the bench because Lucy Longley was their starter, their big guy. And then, I mean, this is the same season where they had everybody score in the game against the Jazz. Come on, everybody scoring.
Raise my hand like a child in a classroom.
Go ahead, Greg.
Rant about why the 2015-16 Warriors are the best, because that's my number.
You got 2 minutes.
Solely off one win. One win. That's what you're
literally. I guarantee you, the Warriors may have been able to shoot, but just like Dennis Rodman said on that TV show. Come on now.
All right.
You got 3 minutes, Chris.
I can do it in 2 if I really wanted to. Or I can go for 10. It doesn't
30 seconds.
You have Steph Curry averaging 30 a game and the first unanimous MVP of all time. You also have Klay Thompson, an all-star, Harrison Barnes, who choked away that finals. Everyone talks about Draymond fouling out. Okay, yeah, Harrison Barnes was one of the worst players on the team throughout the entire playoffs, not just the finals. After having an excellent season. Then you have Draymond Green, who probably should have won the Defensive Player of the Year. And, just didn't for some reason. Who knows why. But none of that matters because they ended up losing. No, they won 73 games and never lost 2 games in a row. Steph Curry was the unanimous MVP.
Right.
He was the scoring champ, averaging 30 a game. He was the steals champ, averaging 2.1 a game. Doing this all while also averaging about 5 rebounds and 7 assists. He was going off.
And guess what? 73-9 does not mean anything. 73-9 does not mean anything without a ring.
They still won the finals. Draymond Tech. Steph Curry also missed half a game off of Tech. Harrison Barnes put on one of the worst performances of a starter ever in a final series. Give them a break. They broke the record, and Curry
They can't beat them.
Chris, I'll back you up.
They did beat them.
I'll back you up.
Steph
Curry put together arguably the greatest offensive season, greatest season a basketball player could ever do. He did it one season. Just the kind of shots he was making was incredible. The things he was doing to make shots.
Captivating television.
Yeah.
Well,
so I'm gonna have to wrap it up here. I wish we had a little bit more time.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Thank you for joining Garrison Alston. Chris Spars, a pleasure as always. As for Beyond the Buzzer, I am your host, Landon Pavin.